That's it, basically. So I've covered a little bit about the money flow. And as I say, Sqale now does this thing, and it's to do with the future. It's not to do with the past. It's to facilitate more of this happening, to facilitate people going into companies and having the time to do this. Which is really what money's for anyway. People pay people to do things. But this is future oriented. It's all about the potential and then realizing that potential and then potential and then realizing that potential. So the next potential, okay? But according to networks, okay? That group, by the way, never should reconstitute. It might. There might be repeated things, okay? But that's kind of defeating the purpose of it. That's fine. That's like an offshoot, let's call it. But it kind of closes it into a small structure. Oh, that worked so well. That was a great team. Well, just invite those players to play in other environments. That's how you really test a few of those players in different environments. And after a little while, there'll be some players that are like shit hot. Okay, this kind of thing. Basically, these consultants basically produce the goods. Okay, don't just talk about it. Don't just come in and go talk. This is what you should do. Do it. That's what we're saying. Put it into action. Now, this kind of thing, it reminds me. Okay, I'm just going to two little offshoots before I forget. Conferences. Oh, no, crap they are. Okay, and how could that change? One is the panel at the end of the day. That's one thing, but also experts listening. Okay, listening. So there's that. And the other thing that popped in my head was, oh God, I had it earlier. I saw it just, but then I carried on to finish what I had. I should have put it up as a word. It's to do with how we're conducting business. And, oh God, I can't remember. You see what happens? All right. Right. Conferences. So for the first time in my life, after doing some teaching, I attended a few conferences. Holy hell! What's the point of a conference? Okay, even when I was running Eco Squared, the precursor for Sqale, I went to the summit, World Summit or whatever, 2016. All these people together, 20,000 delegates and all this kind of stuff, and you're just wandering about, and I've had a stall in another place, and some people walk by and look at your stuff. It's so inefficient. It's so inefficient. It's everybody looking out for themselves, basically. And if you do that, it's minimally efficient. It's like a classroom of kids where everybody thinks it's the teacher that's got the information, the knowledge, and that's the only person that can help you. What bollocks is that? So really what you want is a kid kind of gets a bit confused, they ask a friend, basically. If they put their hand, if there's a question in class that I used to have, if somebody has a question, I'm happy to answer it, or usually ask them a question back. But maybe somebody else, is there anybody else think of any answer? Oh, right, okay, great. Can you help? Okay, great. Get people to help each other. So if everybody in class thinks there's 30 other people in this room that can help me, that's a completely different environment. So imagine if you went to a conference. That's the third one. Third one. All right. Everyone helps. And the idea is, because now we've got the value tracking system of Sqale, is that you go into the conference, or whatever you want to call it, and basically you're there. Yes, there are some things to look at, but it's really our connections. The water cooler, that thing about the water cooler, that's the majority of it. It's how we're engaging each other, but it's random. And so, for whatever reason you want to start talking to somebody because they're looking at something, you say, what do you think, blah, blah, blah. You say, oh, what do you do, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of it, you might go, right, thanks for that, I will represent you. So if I find anybody else and I remember you, I'm going to tell them about you. Okay. If I do that for 5 people, if I basically find 5 people, just accidentally, blah, that I find, oh, these are interesting, maybe relevant to me, but not so much, because it's random almost, But then I know there's 5, and then out of those 5, when I meet other people, I go, oh, right, that guy, oh, that guy, and you recommend. And they're doing the same for you. So basically you're trying to connect up other people, and other people are trying to connect you up. And of course there might be a specific group of people because it's by a conference, so the specific bunch of people that are front of house, they're not just running front of house, they're doing this par excellence. They're like the horizontal players again. Okay, they're like trying to get people together that are similar. And they should have done the background before people turn up. And in fact, people before they turn up should be looking at other people that are going to be turning up in order to have prior meetings, so they have initial engagements with people that they think are going to be interesting. And then they find out it's not quite where I am or something or other, and then facilitate engagement. I think you're going to increase, so by the end of a conference or 2 or 3 days or just a day or a morning or afternoon, at the end of it, you've got a bunch of people that are being recommended to you, whether you've got time to meet them that day or you follow up later. I think that sounds a lot better. What about, for example, another thing? What happens at the end of a conference? I remember this one, it was all to do with education. They had this panel, they talked, then we kind of got to groups, then, no we didn't actually, we dissolved, and then they had another panel, and then there was another talker, and I remember going, God, what the hell? Coming to conferences to listen to information is not the deal. Okay, it's like a meeting. I don't think meetings are for information exchange. Information exchange we've solved. It's not information, it's decisions. We have to make decisions together. That's what the whole point about the action cycle was. Okay, let's make decisions together, let's get commitment, let's do something. Okay, so imagine an action cycle at the scale of like 1,000 people. 1,000 people doing an action cycle. It's like, what the hell? Obviously we don't have the skills to do that yet, but if we start getting better at this kind of thing, we will, all right? So the idea is, and the idea that I had was, so I'd wait. I'd be wandering around to see other people that weren't going to just sit and watch somebody talk. It's just so absurd. And so I would talk to other people, and that was kind of interesting. And I thought, well, what happens again if you were just talking to different people? And what happens if the objective is that by the end of the day, there's going to be somebody standing up there that's got an idea that is unbelievable, all right? That is just like the thing that we need to hear. That's something that we can act on this week to get a result. Okay, or something like that. Do you get what I'm saying? So instead of it being all, they've got these talkers in, they've already organized, blah, 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 it's one of us. Okay? And it's not that we're competing to get up there. Okay? It's not like that. That's the whole point about the horizontal players. Okay? It's not about the best talker, because that's what panels are. Panels are people that are invited to go up there that can talk. Blah, 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 very confidently about whatever they're talking about, but it's mostly rehearsed, mostly they know what they're talking about, mostly it's all secure, and there's very hardly any spontaneity. You might get an inspirational talker. Okay, great. So we've got an inspirational talker. Oh, inspiring. God, they're so clever. Oh, they're so good. Great, it's inspiring. Oh, amazing. Oh, that's really valuable. Oh, what's happened there? Oh, that's really good. Okay, but so what? Okay, so it's very confusing. So what we'd like to do is actually see results in the world. And the only way that's going to happen is if we actually get the 1,000 people that are turning up, actually doing things in the real world, actually coming together and going, okay, so what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, right, okay. I'm doing this thing, getting together in small groups, maybe actually at the end of it, meeting the right people that you need to meet that day, as well as at the end of it, maybe 3 people, and one is just like, that sounds really cool. That's really powerful. Yeah, I would like to contribute to that. And it's relevant to the fact there's 1,000 of us here for a reason, all right? And so it's more like that. Not just relative to ourselves, but there's something about education and something about this or something about that, and that's why we're there. And so there's somebody saying something which is kind of actionable that you can go, well, actually, yeah, I could put a bit of money towards that. I could put a tenner towards that. 1,000 times 10, it's £10,000. That's not bad. Okay, it's not like a reward. It's not a win thing. It's just to do with, can we get that result? Or they say, look, if you go to this website and you do this, we will be able to do this because of it. That kind of thing. Or it's a way to reach out to more people. It really needs to be heard by a lot of people. And it's been selected by us as groups, but also filtered by some people maybe, so that we have 3 people. And they might not be great at talking. Okay? Ideally, out of those 3 that are at the end, there's somebody that's just like, can hardly put 2 words together. But maybe there's somebody else that interviews them or talks to them and tries to get them to explicate it a bit more, get beyond the stage fright or whatever it is. And it's our skills, okay, to listen, which is what the action cycles are. Okay, yeah, I mean, I love it, right? Or there's another one. You get these experts coming in. Now, quite often what happens is the panels are just talking at us. And I'm going, shouldn't the people that are up there be the ones that are listening to us? I think. Now, that's what I did as a teacher, I felt. I listened to the kids, so if a kid said, I don't get this, and it's not like, I don't understand this. I'm like, no, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in a kind of, I don't understand this. Okay, what don't you understand? Is it the English? Is it the, what don't you understand? Give me a bit of a clue. And if it's an attitude, I don't understand this, they can't be bothered. That's one thing. So what, you can't be bothered? Well, then you enter into some kind of motivational discussion, maybe, or something or other. Or you're just playing around in that motivational area, doing a bit of challenge. But if they actually don't understand something, is what? Is it this symbol? Is it that symbol? Is it this step? Which bit? Give me some clue. And then somebody else says something. Oh, okay, is it this bit? Is it that bit? And you actually get into it. And for the first time, you're actually, listening, trying to get to what's the problem. Obviously I can do something and they can't quite. It's like, and I'm interested, genuinely interested, because there are, lots of kids and lots of people, and everybody's got problems, and you just have to go, okay, so what is it? Now, an expert telling you something that we can read in books that they've already, like me, if I turn up somewhere or other, all right, and I promised myself this when I went to these places. So if I ever get invited to a place, all right, yes, I'll do a little bit of yabbity yab, but quite frankly, I've spent hours yabbing about this stuff. Why would anybody invite me to go to a place to talk about stuff that I've already talked about? I mean, what possible, right? If they come and say, right, would you like to kind of try and create something in this space? Well, okay, I'll try. Okay, actually, if somebody said, come and speak about actions, like, well, can we do one? Okay, that's what I'd rather do. If and I said, look, I think I would like to do this. You go there and you're basically, okay, this is what I do, blah, 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 blah. Does anybody need to access me? Is there anybody that I can engage here that I'm actually be able to help? Okay, and it's not just help. Here's the trick. Okay, it's not just expert listening. I'm not here just to give you advice. Although that's useful. It's not advice. You might be able to say something to somebody that might actually alter what it is that they're thinking. Okay, because they're a problem. It's like a kid, stuck with maths, and you kind of listen to them, and they go, oh, okay, what about this, blah, 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 and they can do it. It's way more complicated because we're talking about people that are in companies or organizations or, in real world situations where it's a lot harder than just a little puzzle, a little mental problem. Okay, it's a psychosocial problem quite often. And it's usually, and here's the thing, contextual. So it's not just their problem, it's a thing that's happening socially. And their problem is they're meant to try and resolve this. That's the traditional method. Whereas I'm suggesting, guys, if we realize it's a psychosocial thing, it means we have to have tools like this to prevent that kind of level of problem. And then the idea that your problem is going to try and work out what the social problem is. Manage these people. Okay, I'll go and try and manage these people. Okay, I mean, if you look at Akov, back in 1979, and what was it, operational research, it's a mess. Okay, the whole idea of management and then come up with structures and just come along, this is what we're going to do, blah, 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 we worked out over there, look, that's all you have to do. It's like, no, you have to work out what the solutions are and the problems are in the mess that is the environment and the actual people in this specific place. Okay, so it's a bit too easy to get an expert, all right? It sounds good, to come in and say stuff. Any organizational change person knows this. Okay, well, let's take it a step further. So if an expert comes along and says, right, okay, tell me what you're doing. Like an entrepreneur, I went to a few of these. Wow, they were exhausting. Tell us what you're doing. It's like a pitch. I wouldn't say pitch because you're not trying to. There's no us-them kind of scenario. They're just describing what's going on and their problem and everything else, and their potential solution. You go, da 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 da. That sounds good. What about this? Da da da. Okay, what about that? Da da da. Hey. Okay, that sounds interesting. I'm interested in doing more of that. I'll invest in that. I'll invest my time and I'll invest money into helping you solve that problem. Now, in our current structure, that would involve too much. If the person had to control it, if If it was like Dragon's Den and your traditional way of understanding how companies work, it's too difficult because it involves too much money, too much overhead. Whereas if you're saying this individual sounds interesting, what they're trying to do sounds interesting, I will invest in time and money flow individually, and we're using a different economic system to enable that, it means that an individual can take part in multiple economic situations because they're not in control of the company or whatever it is. They're facilitating. Okay, so an expert basically is listening for opportunities. You know the way they're meant to be entrepreneurs? Well, demonstrate that. Okay, well that sounds like interesting ones. I'll invest in that and I'll try and take part as much as I can. Imagine if you could go to one conference in Scotland, another one down in England, another different cities, and different people have got different things happening. It's much more like a network. Okay, it's mycelia network. Now, we've obviously got limited time and effort, but there are some people that are quite good at doing that. Okay, and it means that you're not just going to a place to give people advice. It's like in your vested interest, because you're putting money into it, you go, okay, I kind of want to see results. So I'm very happy to say some things and take part, but I kind of want to see what you guys are doing, what the results are. Too many cooks spoil the broth? Possibly. It's a bit like this, but it's a little bit deeper, let's say. The form of engagement is a little bit more skin in the game, let's say. Okay? So it's not experts coming along and just saying stuff. It's about listening and actually going, I'm going to take part in this. That's kind of interesting. Because the whole part about Sqale is that everybody's an investor, everybody's an employer, everybody's an employee, everybody's being paid. The money's moving in a very different way. It's individual, okay, to individual, and then groups of people coalescing. And basically, money's a vector, and the vector goes in time for a longer period of time. Actually, I didn't even explain that with Sqale. I didn't actually go into the detail of that. But basically, if you've got more money and you're putting that into a project, and you're putting more money, it means it's kind of a longer project. That's generally what it means. Right now, it means you might have to spend that money on multiple people. But if, with Sqale, it's multiple people and they have their own vectors of intention and money, it means that the people with the most money have kind of got the longest period of time that they're kind of looking at. Okay, so their objectives are kind of like longer. Okay, quick thing. All right, because I don't think I squeezed it into the Sqale one. That's a hierarchy. Actually, I think I did do something like this, so hopefully it'll connect up to something else I've said. Right, so you've got a hierarchy, right, okay, fine. If you put this on the side, it might start making more sense. And you think, Christ, I can't draw. Why can't I draw? Why can't I draw? I mean, it's a basic thing, and that's time. And normally we think the person at the top, and this is kind of true, these people might be embedded in their thinking within the organisation, getting stuff done. They might be outward-looking people, sales, marketing, and so on and so forth. But the people at the top are meant to be, or some of them, meant to be looking at every other structure out there and going, right, what's the biggest environment? Where's our company going? Making one decision a year, to go, right, I think based on what's happening and everything else, big decision a year, that way. Okay, the whole boat goes up that way. And it's going to invest in a whole project for the next 5-10 years. All right? That position, therefore, and usually the hierarchy, the money increases as it goes up. So if you put that on its side, it means that money, this person has the most money, and they generally do. This person has a smaller amount of money. Do you see? And so the vector intents have different amount of vector intention towards the future. That's kind of interesting, do you think? Have you ever seen anything like that? I like it. I like it a lot. So we put it on its side, and then it's time, and that means it's not to do with perspective. Hierarchies, highest, be on the top of a pyramid, I can see further than longer horizon, that's all spatial. This one is temporal. So this is a time or temporal. This is spatial. Okay, this is a spatial metaphor, and what I've done with everything, and if you look at all the other systems, including the action cycle, it's all to do with time, okay? It's all to do with, let's get this thing happening now. I've got a bunch of people, and how do we get that to happen? So the metaphors, if you look at the language, it's all about script and categories. If you look at personality and people, it's all to do, we've got things within us and it's individuals. If you look at, it's all to do with things, it's all to do with boundedness, it's all spatial. Mathematics is mostly used for physics and representation of things, counting things and so on and so forth. However, I've got XQ, it's an alternative way of understanding, it's to do with perception. Perception is a process, it's all temporal. So if we temporalize absolutely everything, okay, you look at it in much more of a temporal, processual way, you get the kind of systems I'm talking about. So in this case, for example, instead of thinking about a company as being a spatial hierarchy and having these diagrams, blah, 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 people, positions, okay, it's more like this, which is a bit more like, I don't know, it's a bit like the murmuration, a bit like flocking, it's a bit like geese. Okay, person in the front, well actually then it goes to the back, actually, then it goes forward. But the point is, this person here, so what happens if you get the whole idea of a budget, and the budget then goes down and people have a budget, if we actually say that's his salary, or her salary, or the budget, so that's like the salary of the person, as well as the budget that they've actually got in control. There's usually a kind of correlation. The higher you are, the bigger the budget that you've got to control. Okay, something like that. And so what I'm trying to say is that with Sqale is that we say, right, this person has this number of credits, it doesn't really matter, amount of money, and that person has just got a very small, like 1, it's got 100. Okay, and or make it more significant. We're talking about, I don't know, £1 million, all right? So effectively £1 million, and this person's got like, £10. Okay, this person's working on an hourly basis of £10, and that person's working on an annual basis of £1 million. Okay, and so it's just a different way of thinking about it, and so they're kind of ahead in time. They're thinking about a year ahead. That's what they're doing. It's not that they're literally ahead. They're all at the same time right now, but they're thinking. So that is not the person. That's their objective. We're all here actually. Okay, do you get that? At any instant, but we've got these intentions. So get rid of the circle bits and just think about there's somebody thinking like that, somebody thinking like that, somebody thinking like that, somebody like that. There's a lot more of these ones. Okay, you get a kind of logarithmic. These are all us. Okay, and there's a lot of people, but all trying to go in the same direction. So if this person goes that way, then they go, okay, that way. With our current structure, they have to. Okay. Whereas what we're suggesting with Sqale is that, well, if those people decide, well, let's go in this direction, that's kind of where they want to go, and a bunch want to go that way, then they can. Why? Because there's another organisation going, oh, look, let's go for that one. Okay. And these are individuals. So the whole idea of what a company is, it's an action cycle. We're saying, look, it would be really useful if we access, that's what we're accessing. Objectives that are out with what somebody has decided a year ago or 6 months ago. Okay, that's the problem with these hierarchies, is they become entrenched with objectives that people have decided 100 years ago even. I mean, there's companies and organizations, the whole notion of a company is, 100 to 120 years old or something or other, and we're still living in these structures to try and achieve certain objectives. It's got variations, big companies, massive companies, transnationals, and then go, no, better if we're kind of agile. Get even more agile. It's just individuals flocking. Murmuration again, okay? And that's what this is attempting to do. However, because of the economics and money and how it works, the system can't escape from these. However much the change agents and everybody else go yabbling on about stuff, the money does this. Money has this effect on us. So that's why we need to have an alternative economic and an alternative way of thinking about things, as well as supporting maths and everything else. So check out the other stuff. Right, action cycles. That kind of went into a bit more detail there. Conferences, that's kind of cool. This is just an extra bit. Anything else? Okay, right. Well, regarding where I am, it would be really cool if I could work with people. Like, I live in the Peak District, Hope Valley. It'd be really cool if a bunch of people around about the Hope Valley was like, were interested in any of these things and started to do stuff. or in Sheffield, or Manchester. Sheffield, closer. We just tried these things out, basically. I would love to have a group of people that I could just kind of join in, find out if I actually could be of service, any companies that I might actually be interested in engaging, and then go in there and just try to contribute. And, you know, I think I can contribute. So my perspective is different. My value sets are, I think, solid. Skill sets, okay, varied, let's put it that way. You know, I think, you know, yeah, I think I'd be a good player for this kind of thing. And if there was a network of people that gathered together using Sqale, I think that, you know, I think we could show significant results in a short period of time. Now, the action cycle, we're talking about an hour for a week. Okay, so it's an hour, 1 hour, all of us, okay, to get a result in 1 week. Okay, that's the commitment. That's 1 week, 1 week. But of course, if we get better at this kind of thing, we might meet for kind of a bit like a conference actually. We might meet for 1 day to get a result in 1 month. If you don't manage it, at least it's just a day. And this one I think works in a team. We're talking about, you know, less than 10, okay, less than 10 people. But maybe if you're going to get together as a day, maybe it's less than 100 people, maybe. Or maybe if it was like 3 days, it would be like less than 1,000. Yeah? Maybe you could do something for like, you know, a season. Okay, 1,000 people? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Okay? And so you need to have, there's a relationship between the time, money, and I used to call it mind mass. I'm going to stick to mind mass. Mind mass. It's not people. It's not just bodies. It's to do with, you know, SQ, how much power people have, kind of socially. So time, gosh, what's that? Time, money, and mind mass. And that relationship going forwards. So it could expand, as I say, from just these little action cycles. Also, the other thing was, there was a thing called a direct. I fictionalized this in one of these books. I think this one here. Gift. Okay, and it's just a fiction, all right? And it doesn't even go into the scale. It was just my first attempt to try to describe the economic system, and then I invented it fictionally. And I think it was an action cycle, so you've got action cycle, and then you had DC. Okay, AC, DC. And DC was directed cycle. And that means that people had already agreed before it what they were doing. So I think that's what the thinking hotel. There was another thing. It wasn't just a thinking hotel, but basically people are coming together in a hotel as a self-organizing system of people, of change agents that are going to transform, like this kind of network kind of thing in a hotel in a city. Wow. Okay. Using all these techniques, I mean, completely transform a city potentially. But anyway, but the point about that is, it's not just an action cycle as we will determine what's going to happen at that event. It's directed. We're going to try to do this. We're here for this reason. Okay, and it's much more of a direction of how we're going to do something. Okay, so that's a DC. So you've got kind of variations like that. The whole part about the AC is that, like, there are low-hanging fruit, okay, that we can access if we don't get stuck in these silos, okay, between the kind of silos, okay. Yeah, so that's about it, really. Okay, so if this is of interest to you, great, please share it forwards. Remember, the person who gave this to you is because they think you're worth it, and they're giving you the money, so you're definitely worth it. And if you think this is worth it, I'm worth it, whatever it is that you thought and your values are worth it, share that forwards with somebody else, add some money, share it with another person, value please, comment, get back to me. Anybody that's thinking this is really good, let's move forward. Check out other people that are doing this kind of stuff, other people that are going, oh, this is really good, and other people might be doing it. If there's anybody that's saying 10, it means they're already doing this kind of stuff already, okay? Which means that the 10s go, ooh, right, okay, let's get together and make this happen, and actually move something like this, or whatever it is that people out there are doing now, okay? So get together, so make it happen. You know, you might be watching this this year, next year, 10 years since I recorded this, and this will all be ancient history, and you guys are doing so fantastically that things have moved on amazingly, that I'm just like ancient history. However, I've said maybe one thing that is potentially of value to you, in which case, I'd be happy. I'm happy even thinking about that. But it'd be good if you kind of put in a comment and get back to me in some form or other. I'm still alive. And yeah, let's see if we can, you know, move things along. It's an alternative business, guys. It's not really business. It's authentic, it's real, it's collective. We're up for it. I'm up for it. Are you up for it? Are you up for it? I'm up for it. All right, let's go. Okay, thank you very much. Be well.